Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, we're following several developing stories. An alarming discovery just outside the Palm Beach airport within direct sight of Air Force One and the president. A shocking daylight heist, priceless jewels stolen from one of the world's most famous museums. And new attacks put the Gaza ceasefire to the test. We'll begin with the breaking news from Palm Beach. The Secret Service finding a hunting stand with a direct line of sight to where the president steps off Air Force One. The FBI now flying in agents to find out who built it. A brazen robbery at the Louvre in Paris. A gang of four getting away with priceless crown jewels. Diamonds, emeralds, and sapphires all gone in a matter of minutes. Authorities say the thieves broke into a second-floor window, getting away on motorbikes. The museum evacuated as authorities search for the suspects. Also spent millions are bracing for a dangerous line of storms heading east from the Ohio Valley. Our weather team on what this could mean for your drive to work tomorrow. President Trump threatening to slash U.S. aid to Colombia, calling that country's president an illegal drug leader after the Colombian president accused the Trump administration of murdering an innocent fisherman in one of its recent strikes. Israel launches a new wave of attacks on Gaza as the fragile ceasefire is put to the test. Hamas and Israel accusing each other of violating the truce, which is barely a week old. Israel saying two of its soldiers were killed in combat. Serious new allegations against Britain's Prince Andrew. Police now investigating allegations that he tried to get his bodyguard to dig up dirt on his accuser, Virginia Giuffre. An air scare as a lithium-ion battery catches fire during an international flight. What happened next? Bruce Springsteen opening up about his offstage struggles, plus Jeremy Allen White on the challenges of playing the boss on the big screen.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this.
Now for the nice big close-up is Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, thank you so much for coming in with us tonight. We really appreciate it. I know you're no stranger to New York politics. It gets messy. We saw what Andrew Cuomo had to say. I guess my question to you is, if you are polling it, we have a poll that says 14%. You may have a poll that shows better. But if you are polling, say, third or low, what is your path to get up there? What is your path to get those votes?
Well, first off, let me take issue with your Fox poll. It says the strongest candidate against crime is Zoran Mandami. Who did they poll? Shoplifters, pimps, prostitutes, drive-by shooters, gang members? Come on, take that poll and throw it out. I'm the law and order candidate endorsed by Rudy Giuliani. Does anybody have better credentials when it comes to law and order and saving New York than Rudy Giuliani? And he said no to Cuomo, obviously. He hates Zoran Mandami, who would destroy the city.
Well, back to that question, though. What's your path to get the votes to win the mayor's race?
The pathway is I start with 28%. That's what I had the last time. And remember when I ran against Eric Adams, I warned everybody he would be corrupt and there would be chaos. So I was right then. And I'm right again. So let this play out. The people have their chance to vote. You got to get your vote out. I have moderate Democrats. I have independents. And I have that category of voters that's never been tapped in before. Animal lovers. The first ever independent line. Protect animals. No kill shelters. Animal abusers go to jail. I know some people like making fun of that. But there are a lot of Americans dedicated to rescuing animals in distress. And I'm proud of what my wife has done over the years and so many other men and women in the United States and here in New York City.
Curtis, years ago, I actually rode the subways with you and the Guardian Angels, and that's part of your law and order background. So I know there's hardly anyone in New York City that knows that issue better than you do. I was there with you. But I want to switch gears and just talk about the economy, because that really is a front and center issue in this race. And it came up during the debates that you had just earlier this week. So let's take a look at the soundbite and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Will freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Making buses free doesn't just provide economic relief, but also public safety. Making universal childcare a reality first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers, raise the state's top corporate tax rate, collecting the fines and fees from bad landlords.
Zoran, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free. It's a fantasy.
So, Curtis, I hear that you think that these are fantasies, but the fact is that Mamdani is leading. He's got the endorsement of Governor Hochul. He's got the support of state lawmakers that are leading the state assembly. So it seems like there's a lot of support around what he's proposing here when it comes to the economy. So tell voters, if his policies of free childcare, free buses, hiking the taxes, came to fruition, what would that do to New York City?
Well, we would be fiscally dissolving. Now, why not look at the only Republican in this race, the only one who was advocating cut the corporate tax rate, cut the income tax, cut the property tax? Who supports me at Fox, who's an economic czar? Larry Kudlow, who has helped many elected officials get their budgets back into shape and cut taxes. It is the only salvation for New York. Andrew Cuomo wants to raise taxes. Or Armandani wants to raise taxes. They're like two peas in a pod. In fact,
The new investigation into a possible security threat against President Trump. The FBI and Secret Service calling a hunting station at Palm Beach. The questions this discovery raises: two assassination attempts on the president. New attacks overseas threatening to derail the Gaza ceasefire. Israel and Hamas accusing each other of breaking the peace deal. The big question, will it fall apart? The stunning jewelry heist at the Louvre in the middle of the morning. Thieves stealing priceless French crown jewels, then making a quick getaway. New details on how it happened and the manhunt for the suspects. Newly released video of another U.S. strike on a boat in the Caribbean as President Trump escalates tensions with Colombia. A controversial former congressman sharing for the first time how he found out about his release from prison after the president commuted George Santos' sentence. One of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers, detailing the abuse she faced in a new memoir released after her death. Her family, in our interview, now demanding action to release the Epstein files.
Mike Johnson needs to do his job.
That's your message to Speaker Johnson?
Do your job.
Plus, what Virginia Roberts Giuffre wrote about Prince Andrew as police investigate whether he tried to dig up information about her. The United Airlines flight diverted because of a cracked windshield. And there's good news tonight. Months after a catastrophic LA wildfire, this football team beating the odds.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the new FBI investigation into what's being described as a suspicious hunting stand with a sightline to Air Force One in South Florida.
Watching Sky News, I'm in Qureshi here. Our headlines for you at 5 a.m. Israel launches a wave of strikes in southern Gaza and says 2 soldiers have been killed. The supply of aid into the territories halted as Israel and Hamas accuse each other of breaking the ceasefire. While in Tel Aviv, the match between rival football teams is called off following disturbances. Also this morning, daylight robbery. Thieves snatch priceless Napoleonic jewels in a daring 4-minute heist at the Louvre. And police examines claims Prince Andrew asked one of its officers to dig up dirt on the woman who accused him of sexual assault. We hear from a father who says his daughter would still be alive and she'd not been sent to failing mental health hospitals.
Just dare I say it, like, prison, keep him safe, but not give him any quality of life, take that all away.
And his most famous umpire, Dickie Bird, is honoured in his Yorkshire hometown as he's laid to rest. On this Monday morning, Israel says it has begun renewed enforcement of the ceasefire after carrying out the wave.
this is DW News live from Berlin. U.S. President Donald Trump says the Israel-Hamas ceasefire remains in effect. Israel says it returns to observing the U.S. brokered truce after carrying out airstrikes on Gaza. More talks are planned to discuss the deal's future. Also coming up, daylight robbery in Paris. France is in shock after thieves make away with priceless jewels after breaking into the Louvre Museum. I'm Tommy Latimer. Welcome to the program.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, the strains on the week-old ceasefire between Israel and Hamas as Israel says it launched strikes inside Gaza in response to Hamas attacks on its troops. Then, how the Department of Education is spurring dramatic change in this country's public schools. And a rare fleeting burst of color in one of the unlikeliest places on Earth.
The Atacama Desert is the driest in the world, and also one of the territories with the highest solar radiation, and the fact that a plant can grow in these conditions is quite remarkable.
Gaza's ceasefire in danger. Israel bombards the Palestinian enclave, accusing Hamas of violating the truce. Violence and disputes pushing the agreement to the brink. Israel will spare no effort until all of our fallen hostages are home. Brazen heist at the Louvre. How did thieves break in and steal jewelry from the world's largest museum in broad daylight? Plus, a sacred site and a ceremony marking its return to a First Nation in BC. And breaking it in.
We usually get like about $60 to $80 per yard.
How these kids are battling boredom with business during Alberta's teachers' strike. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It has been a week since U.S. President Donald Trump jetted to the Middle East to celebrate the American-led ceasefire in Gaza. There are now signs that the fragile truce between Israel and Hamas is under threat of crumbling. Today, Israel launched a new series of strikes into Gaza, blaming Hamas for violating the truce first by attacking Israeli forces still stationed there. Officials in the enclave say more than 30 Palestinians were killed by the attacks. Now that comes on top of Israel halting the transfer of much-needed aid into Gaza. Its military now says it's going back to upholding the ceasefire agreement, but as Mackenzie Gray reports in our top story tonight, there are no guarantees.
It seemed like calling it a ceasefire would become increasingly difficult. The Israeli Defense Force is releasing footage of multiple strikes on targets inside Gaza.
The Prime Minister has made it abundantly clear there will be no compromise and Israel will spare no effort until all of our fallen hostages are home. There are 16 more hostages that need to be returned.
Israel launched dozens of attacks after 2 IDF soldiers were killed inside of the Israeli-controlled city of Rafah after an alleged attack from Hamas militants. Hamas, who has accused Israel of multiple ceasefire violations, denied involvement, saying they hadn't had any communication with.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Grace Shin, and at this hour, a cargo plane skids off a runway and into the sea at Hong Kong Airport. 2 people are dead, and one of the city's busiest runways is shut. China's economy slows to its weakest pace in a year, in line with forecast. A property slump and trade tensions weigh on demand, fueling calls for more stimulus. The state of the economy will be on the agenda as top Chinese leaders gather for a key 4-day meeting, where they will finalize the development blueprint for the next 5 years. And Israel says the Gaza ceasefire is back on track after deadly strikes on Hamas targets, accusing the group of killing 2 soldiers in the worst flare-up since the truce began.
Discussions surrounding events across the world.
The World Today, from Monday to Thursday, with Stuart Norval on France 24. Hello and a warm welcome. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the headlines. Israel says it will return to the truce after bombing Gaza dozens of times on Sunday and blocking aid to the region, which also violates that ceasefire agreement. At least 45 people have been killed in Gaza. Israel blaming its latest violent actions on Hamas and the delay in releasing the bodies of the remaining Israeli hostages. Meanwhile, breaking with 2 decades of socialist rule, Bolivia elects a centre-right president who promises capitalism for all. Rodrigo Paz says he will revive the battered economy while maintaining social spending and put Bolivia back on the international stage. Meanwhile, you saw a glimpse of the images there, but we're still searching for the missing royal jewels and the people who stole them. Investigations continue into the daylight robbery at the Louvre Museum in Paris. 8 priceless pieces were taken. Experts fear they'll never be seen again. But also coming up in this hour of the program, we'll be joined by Emily Boyle, who's been looking at the international newspapers for us. Among other stories she's picked up is one about the new sumo champion crowned in London, as well as what athletes got up to during their visit to the United Kingdom. Today, the first major test of the Gaza ceasefire, Israel launches deadly airstrikes after accusing Hamas of killing 2 of its soldiers. Minister lands in Washington for his highly anticipated face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump. Barnaby Joyce insists he's a political free agent and doesn't rule out defecting to One Nation. A daring daytime robbery, thieves steal priceless jewels from the world's most visited museum. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Catherine Robertson. The Gaza ceasefire is on shaky ground, with Israel launching strikes against Hamas across the Strip and both sides accusing the other of jeopardising the deal. Middle East correspondent Matthew Dorman reports from Jerusalem.
This ceasefire has only been in force for around 10 days, but it has been shaken to its core with dozens of Israeli airstrikes across.
Tonight, the Middle East flares again. Israel strikes Gaza as IDF and Hamas accuse each other of violating the ceasefire.
I'm Deborah Patter in East Jerusalem. Fears that war could return to Gaza after the most serious escalation of the 9-day ceasefire.
Also tonight, a brazen robbery in broad daylight.
When you rob the Louvre, that's a big deal to all of France.
I'm Elizabeth Palmer in London. A heist at the Louvre. Thieves make off with France's crown jewels. Deadly strike. U.S. forces destroy a 7th boat in the Caribbean suspected of drug smuggling.
I'm Willie James and I'm in travel with the president in West Palm Beach, Florida. Tensions are escalating fast, with the president of Colombia accusing the U.S. of murder.
In Oregon, clashes intensify against ICE.
I'm Camilo Montero Galvez in Portland, Oregon, where ISIS tactics are fueling growing concerns about President Trump's immigration practices.
Severe storms alert.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak, tracking the potential for severe weather tonight in the east, plus a new threat in the west.
All that, plus Sumo Showdown.
I'm Raimi Inocencio at the Royal Albert Hall, where the Beatles, Beyonce, and Bruce Springsteen have played. Tonight, it is all belly slaps for Sumo.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening.
Africa News. The news. The IDF says it has carried out aerial attacks in the southern Gazan city of Rafah on Sunday. It's the first time the Israeli army has launched airstrikes on Gaza since a U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal with Hamas came into force late last week. Israel says its strikes were in response to anti-tank missiles and gunfire being opened against its troops stationed in Rafah. In a post on X, the IDF added that its attacks aimed to eliminate terrorist infrastructure in the area and was compliant with the terms of the deal. The strikes killed one person and injured others, according to local sources in the enclave. The Gaza Health Ministry says at least 18 Palestinians were killed over the past 24 hours after various incidents of direct gunfire. Hamas has accused Israel this week of at least 47 violations of the truce, saying Israeli troops have repeatedly opened fire and sponsored armed individuals to incite chaos. Israel also accuses Hamas of not abiding by the terms of the deal, saying the group has yet to return the bodies of 16 deceased hostages.
Young women and girls in Zimbabwe are using an ancient tradition to fight child marriages and campaign for gender equality. In the past, adolescent girls would be taken to a private place where they would be prepared for marriage in a costume called linga. Now these girls are flipping the practice and are using these spaces as a forum to learn about the harms of child marriage.
Behave is mainly the adults themselves, but the girls now have an understanding of how important it is to promote and protect themselves from teenage pregnancies and child marriages, because they are actually seeing their colleagues and peers who are suffering after they have experienced child marriage. So the programs that we are running in schools and in communities, we are trying to make the girls take the leading role so that they actually preach the gospel themselves. And if they do preach to their peers, they have their kind of understanding and language that they share.
1 in 3 girls in Zimbabwe marries before 18, according to the United Nations Children's Fund. Like many other African countries, Zimbabwe has banned child marriage, but the practice endures. Although most prevalent in Africa, experts say it is a worldwide issue.
Talking about rape, sexual exploitation, and breaking this.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Question, is Prince Andrew about to become the first royal for a very long time to be investigated by the police?
Well, the Metropolitan Police look into claims that the Prince asked a bodyguard to dig up dirt on Virginia's Giuffre.
But just one day before her book is published, is there more to come?
Ahead of the London summit on tackling illegal migration, there's warnings that Russian spies could be working with people smugglers to flood Europe with migrants.
The Louvre heist that took place yesterday shocks the world. Priceless jewellery stolen in broad daylight and up a ladder. But will a manhunt uncover who is responsible?
The ceasefire in Gaza resumes after the killing of 2 Israeli soldiers and at least 36 Palestinians. President Trump repeated his support for peace on Air Force One.
It's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yes. Life in the countryside takes another blow. New TV News data shows rural pubs and shops closing at a record rate. The president of the Countryside Association took aim at the government.
I see no sign at all that this government is interested in rural policy. It seems to be working against us at every stage. What the Chancellor hasn't learned or understood is that you can't tax people into growth.
It's official, driverless cars are coming to London next year. We're going to be debating if robot drivers are the future at 7:20 this morning.
And in sport this morning was a good day yesterday for Eamon. Bad one for me, as Manchester United went away at Liverpool for the first time in a decade and Spurs lose at home to Aston Villa. Max Verstappen wins the US Grand Prix, making his 5th World Championship now a real possibility. And England's women reached the semi-final of the Cricket World Cup.
Well, after what was a rather dull and drab week just gone, there's plenty of weather in the forecast this week. I'll have all of the details coming up shortly.
Hello there, a very good morning to you on this Monday morning. You're starting your day and your week with us. I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.